What if your entire life felt like reading a book no one else can see? A story packed with hidden symbols, gut-level déjà vu, and plot twists only you can sense long before they happen. From the outside, an INFJ looks calm, maybe even reserved. But inside, picture a constantly humming command center. Lights blinking, data streaming, every human interaction quietly filed away for later. One moment you're the silent observer in the corner. The next, you're hit by a tidal wave of purpose so strong it keeps you awake at 3 a.m. Tonight we're cracking open that secret novel. We'll trace, stage by surprising stage, the INFJ's journey from wide-eyed child to seasoned visionary, revealing the inner pivots most people never notice. Ready to see the invisible roadmap? Let's flip to page 1. If this peek behind the INFJ curtain sparks an aha moment, smash that, hit subscribe, and share the video with anyone who's ever felt different but destined. Your support helps us bring more mind-opening stories straight to you. Picture 6-year-old you at a family picnic. While the other kids race for the swing set, you're quietly watching Aunt Linda's smile fade the second Uncle Ray turns away. The air changes, you notice. You store it. Moments later, someone asks how you knew Linda was upset, and you just shrug. How do you explain that feelings show up to you like colors, vivid and obvious? In first grade, you guess the teacher's mood before she even speaks. By third grade, you're predicting playground alliances like a pint-sized political analyst. It feels normal, until one day it doesn't. By middle school, that flicker glows brighter. You're the kid who senses the class clown's jokes aren't just comedy, they're camouflage. During recess, you sit under a tree sketching storylines that knit every stray detail into one pulsing tapestry. The adults call you mature for your age, but really you're translating silent radio signals no one else seems to hear. It's thrilling and isolating. One afternoon, you jot in your journal, "I think I'm wired differently." That confession feels electric, like striking a match in a dark room. You don't know it yet, but the INFJ journey has officially begun. High school corridors can feel like carnivals. Flashing lockers, hormonal fireworks, social games louder than the morning bell. To survive, your INFJ radar learns a new trick: costume design. You slip on a bubbly persona for group projects, a chill vibe for lunch with the skaters, and a studious mask in chemistry lab. Inside, you're still the observer, tracking micro-expressions like timestamps. But outside, you play chameleon to keep the spotlight from scorching. Ever notice how you can mirror slang you'd never use at home, then swap to formal speech with a teacher in seconds? It's not deception, it's protective theater. By junior year, the masks fit so well that even you forget which is real. Friends praise your adaptability, teachers note your poise. Yet late at night you replay every conversation, hunting for the moment you overshared or underfelt. The act keeps you safe, but it also siphons energy like a silent battery drain. Sometimes you catch your reflection between classes and think, who am I when nobody's watching? That crack of doubt widens each time a mask slips, hinting at a future reckoning. Because no costume, no matter how artful, can muffle an INFJ's growing empathy forever. College orientation hits like an emotional stampede. New roommates unload heartbreak at 2 a.m., group chats buzz with panic about majors, and campus rallies pulse with raw activism. Your INFJ circuitry, already sensitive, now feels dialed to 11. It's as if every passing stranger hands you an invisible backpack of feelings: fear, hope, homesickness. And by sunset, you're lugging a mountain you never asked to carry. You try grounding tricks, deep breaths, playlists, humor. Still, a professor's offhand sigh can hijack your focus for hours. Ever wonder why coffee shops feel louder even when nobody's talking? That's empath static flooding the signal. The overload finally peaks at a Friday night concert. The bass reverberates through your chest, but what really knocks the wind out of you is the sea of unspoken stories. Lovers pretending they're okay, friends laughing over hidden worries, a stranger silently mourning someone who never came home. Mid-chorus, tears sting your eyes, and they aren't even yours. That moment becomes your turning point. You stumble outside, gulp autumn air, and realize boundaries aren't optional. They're life jackets. You vow to study mindfulness, maybe therapy, anything to filter the flood. Because if you drown in everyone else's emotions, who will decode the future? Some revolutions begin with megaphones. Yours starts with a soft, unwavering, actually, no. Post-college life throws you into a cubicle farm ruled by unspoken politics. Late-night emails. Forced Friday fun. A boss who equates silence with agreement. At first you nod along, masks at the ready, until one afternoon a teammate trashes a charity idea you pitched. Something inside straightens its spine. You calmly restate the vision and refuse to let it die. Colleagues blink, surprised at the sudden granite in your voice. That day you learn a rebel doesn't need volume. A single well-placed whisper can shake the rafters. Quiet defiance cascades into everyday choices. You start declining pointless meetings, recommending ethical vendors over cheaper shortcuts, even suggesting mental health days during budgeting talks. Coworkers quickly learn that when you do speak, the room tilts to listen, because your words carry maps of possibility, not ego. Each small stand chisels your values into granite, and with every boundary drawn, the masks feel lighter, thinner, almost unnecessary. Yet a new restlessness flickers beneath the calm, a sense that cubicle victories are just warm-ups for something far larger, something that might upend your entire trajectory. What tremor is building beneath your feet? It starts innocently, an article shared on your lunch break about refugees rebuilding futures. Something in that story detonates a fault line you didn't know existed. Suddenly, spreadsheets blur and your pulse drums. This can't be all there is. Over the next weeks, you devour biographies of visionaries, binge TED Talks at 2 a.m., and jot wild ideas on napkins. Social enterprises, trauma-informed schools, green tech for villages without power. The hum in your chest grows into a rumble. You walk to work and office towers feel like cardboard props. Destiny, it seems, is pounding from underneath, demanding seismic change. The quake hits full force on a random Tuesday. You're approving yet another budget edit when a thought cuts through like lightning. If I died tonight, would this spreadsheet matter? Your hands freeze. Minutes tick by. Finally, you close the file, push back your chair, and email HR about a sabbatical. Friends call you brave. Relatives call you reckless. But deep down you know it's physics. Energy can't stay bottled forever. With savings, a backpack, and an idea journal, you board a one-way flight to the next chapter of your life. Heart thundering with equal parts terror and fierce anticipation. Your flight lands in a quiet coastal town where cliffs meet the sea in perpetual dialogue. You rent a tiny studio, one desk, one kettle, spotty Wi-Fi, and vow to stay until the inner noise clears. Days stretch into a rhythm of sunrise walks, thrift store novels, and notebooks filling faster than tide pools. Isolation feels less like hiding and more like tuning an old radio. With each silent hour, the static of other people's expectations fades while your own signal grows crisp. Ideas you once scribbled as too crazy now glow neon. A podcast on healing narratives, a mentorship platform for lost teens. One stormy night the power cuts, leaving only candlelight and crashing waves. In that hush, your pen races, connecting empathy training with augmented reality storytelling, turning your lifelong pattern spotting into a blueprint for social change. By dawn, the concept feels less like a project and more like a calling. Proof that solitude can be a forge, not a cage. You email a former professor, outline the prototype, and within hours receive a single line back. This could shift paradigms. When do we start? The hermit's hatch has cracked open, and the world is already peering in, eager for what you'll unveil next. Collaboration ignites the crucible. Your professor introduces you to a neuroscientist studying narrative therapy. A tech founder joins the call, fascinated by your augmented reality sketch. In virtual whiteboards you weave psychology, myth, and machine learning into one shimmering thread. Remember those childhood moments when people's motives lit up like colors? Now you code that synesthetic gift into algorithms that spot untold stories and suggest healing reframes. Mid-brainstorm somebody jokes you're turning feelings into physics, and you laugh, because that's exactly what it feels like, transmuting invisible intuitions into tools the world can touch. The lab hums, something golden is forming. Months blur into spark-filled sprints. Beta users, war vets, foster kids, frontline nurses, slip on headsets and watch their own memories re-rendered with uplifting arcs. Tears mix with smiles as shame rewrites itself into resilience in real time. Each success feels like spinning straw into empathy-powered gold. Yet behind the screens you catch your reflection. The same quiet INFJ who once juggled masks, now orchestrating a symphony of insights. Late one evening you step onto the balcony, city lights flickering below, and whisper, "So this is what the patterns were for." Fulfillment surges, but a familiar fatigue nips at its edges. Success breeds a new storm. Every demo ends in hugs, every email begins with "you saved my life," and your calendar implodes with requests. Keynote here, panel there, crisis center consultation tomorrow at dawn. Each story you absorb feels heavier than the last, yet turning people away feels unthinkable. Coffee morphs from treat to lifeline. Meditation apps blink unanswered reminders on your phone. One night, mid-Zoom, the edges of your vision blur and your voice cracks. Not from emotion this time, but exhaustion. You log off, stare at your dim reflection and whisper, "I can't pour from an empty cup." The next morning you cancel everything, yes, everything, and drive to a lakeside cabin with no signal bars. For 3 days you sleep, hike, and let the wind edit your tangled thoughts. Somewhere between pine-scented breaths, you realize compassion isn't a river to drown in. It's a well that needs refilling. You sketch a new rule set: 2 unplugged days per week, a therapist on speed dial, a tiny yoga mat rolled out beside your desk. It feels radical, even guilty, but as you leave the cabin, the horizon looks wider again. You finally accept that saving the world requires saving yourself first. The cabin reset flips a switch. Instead of frontline rescuer, you become quiet architect of change. You start hosting small storycraft circles in a sunlit co-working loft. 10 chairs, herbal tea, no PowerPoint allowed. Rather than solving problems, you ask questions that spark discoveries. What meaning hides between your memories? Attendees leave lighter, notebooks blazing with insights they mined themselves. Word spreads faster than any ad campaign. Soon, junior psychologists, indie filmmakers, even a retired firefighter file in, eager for the INFJ who sees blueprints in people. It's mentorship by magnetism. You never planned it, yet every week the circle widens. Guidance reshapes you too. As mentees recount their victories, an indie film funded, a trauma center revamped, you feel a subtle click inside, like gears aligning. The validation that once drained you now circulates, because you're not the hero of every story. You're the cartographer handing out maps. One evening, after the circle disperses, you linger at the whiteboard striped with brainstorms. A quiet thrill rises. These ripples will echo beyond any single project or lifetime. You wipe the markers clean, smile at the blank space, and think, so, this is how legacies begin. A decade after that first cabin retreat, you're back on the same shore, this time with a small documentary crew in tow. They're filming the global impact of your once scribbled idea. Schools in Nairobi using Story AR to heal tribal wounds. Veterans in Ohio mapping trauma into triumph. Teens in Tokyo coding empathy games. As the camera rolls, a gull's cry cuts through the breeze and you laugh, suddenly recalling 6-year-old you at that family picnic, spotting invisible currents adults ignored. Every stage, mask-making, burnout, hermitage, feels like a lens polishing itself, preparing you to capture this panoramic view of change. That night, sitting by a driftwood fire, you hand the crew a question instead of a quote. What will you do with your invisible gifts? The mic crackles. Nobody answers right away, and that silence feels perfect. Because legacies, you've learned, aren't monuments, they're invitations. Waves hiss against the sand like a closing curtain while constellations arrange themselves in new patterns only you seem to notice. You breathe, pen poised over a fresh journal, and whisper the final stage aloud. Begin again. Tomorrow some other wide-eyed child will sense a hidden smile, and the cycle will flicker into life once more.